What's going on today, guys? Let's get a compliment sandwich on this sucker. I overall like this knife. This is the Benchmade proper. I don't feel that they nailed it out of the park, but I feel like they did a really good job for their first attempt. They tried to modernize, and I wouldn't say tried, they did, modernize the traditional style knife. They call it a simple yet modern take on a classic gentleman's knife. Sounds really well. I think they nailed that part. In actual practice, owning a lot of slip joint knives myself, handling a bunch, I feel they kind of missed the mark on two different ways. But first of all, overall, I really like the looks of this knife. I like the overall profile. I like how everything feels like it flows together. I know from my knife experience that this blade shape really suits my EDC purposes very well. So it's kind of a mix between a sheep's foot style blade and a worn cleft blade. I have some examples here. Sheep's foot, very flat nose, pretty prominent hump there, and a worn cleft. Still a straight blade. This is more laid back, very pointy. Benchmade does classify this as a sheep's foot style knife. I can certainly go with that. I don't really care what things are called, but you can kind of see that it's a blend of both. So it's not quite, I never have a problem with the tip being sharp on sheep's foot knives. It's one of my favorite EDC style blades, and especially in traditional style knives. I think it's a really good working knife for me, for opening boxes, for doing most tasks. I like when this point, there's a reason that utility blades, the Stanley slidey blades, work really well. I can make a whole nother video on that. But I feel that this really is a blend of both. So you can see it's a little more pointy than a true sheep's foot, but not quite as pointy as a worn cleft. It leaves the tip a little bit thicker. There's no worry of breaking this tip. And that's going to be a hit down the road too. For me personally, I don't know, maybe we'll just do it right now. For me personally, when I first seen this knife, I like the profile. We've already gone over that. I like the blade steel choice on an S30V. If you're going to do a modern take on a traditional knife, I feel S30V is a good option. Maybe CPM M4 would have been better for me personally, but I like patina. You know what I mean? I like the staining. I like the knives to take on character as you carry them. But overall, S30V, it's a great choice. And Benchmade's S30V is really well done. In the past, some people complain that their S30V is a little chippy. I didn't find that the case with this, and all of my Benchmades in the last 5 years have not been chippy. I feel like they have figured S30V heat treat out. At one time, rewind 5 years ago, I always personally felt, now I never had this tested or anything, but in my experience, I always felt that their S30V was on the higher end of the hardness scale, which meant a little bit harder to sharpen and a little more chippy should you run into a staple or hit the ground or the edge of the table when you're cutting, or a cutting board, and you know what I mean? The edge, being that the blade was a little harder than most S30V, it was a little more brittle than other S30Vs, and I feel like they have pulled that back. So think in the beginning, Chris Reeves S30V, now this is not, I'm just using it as an example. Their S30V was a little on the soft side. Benchmade ran theirs a little on the hard side. The perfect meat is right in the middle. I feel the Sabenza has now nailed that, but this is S35VN. Versus this is the S30V. I feel they have really hit that sweet spot in there. I had no issues with chipping. In fact, this is still the factory edge on there. You can see. Now it does need sharpening, but there's no chips or anything, no issues in there. And I did use it. And I did cut thick plastic, zip tie stuff. We have a big family. My wife buys these spaghetti sauces and the big things with the big plastic rings on them. And I always cut them because you always see the pictures of the turtles swimming inside there. But I'm not talking these are like a 6-pack of beer plastic things. These are like thick. Picture like really big industrial zip ties, and then that's, you know, I cut a few packages like that with this. So no issues on shipping. I like the S30V. I feel in the past too hard, and now it's back where it should be. So they say right around 58 to 60 RC. I feel the blade length is a really good size, a little bit under 3 inches, about 2.8 something, whatever, 2.86. Feels good in the hand. I do have a little bit of a complaint right here, is that I feel this is a little bit cramped. I don't know why they felt the need to make this a bump right here. I think if they would have rounded it off, just take some sandpaper and round this thing off, so it's just smooth here, no prominent bump right here. I think overall it would have been a little bit of a better knife. Although this is a gentleman's knife, I mean, how many marshmallow sticks and tent stakes are you going to be making with it? Probably none. Probably not an issue, but I think it's worth mentioning. I wear about a large size glove, so you can see finger hits it here, 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 and then this one's kind of left out. I guess you could grab a lanyard here. There is a lanyard tube on there. Well done. I like large-ish slip joints like this to have a lanyard tube. And I can put 4 fingers on there, but it feels a little bit cramped. And then you have this spot that lands right there. Not an issue, not a deal breaker, not for me. I kind of feel the same way about the Delica, right? So I always felt like this kind of crams your 2 fingers up. When they put any kind of bumps, it's one of the reasons I love this Abenza so much. Whenever you have a straight design, you're not limited to where you grip the knife, right? It just feels nice all the way around. Where when you start putting bumps and stuff in there, it can work really well, but usually it doesn't work out because everybody's hand is not made the same. So you can see if I bunch these 2 front fingers right here, these all kind of fall in line and it works, but my fingers feel cramped. Now if I were to just pick this knife up, here's in my hand, and look, it's right on the middle of that bump. It's not a hot spot. In fact, the Delica is one of my favorite knives of all time, but it's there. You know what I mean? I would have the same complaint about the Delica. I don't like harsh. I understand up here at the guard. I get that. But I don't round this off a little bit. Or make it long enough so a hand fits on here. You know? So, worth mentioning. Did I already go over the blade shape? Yes, we did. I really like it. I don't like the grind. I understand they probably did it because maybe a full flat grind would be just a little too much for the average Benchmade user. I do like this swedge on here, but I think they wanted to keep, because this is fairly thin stock right here, they wanted to keep a little bit of rigidness in here because sometimes you get a slip joint where they're fully flat grounds and they can flex on you a little bit. Maybe S30V can't flex like that, so maybe they had to do a grind like this saber grind. I feel that does hinder cutting performance a little bit, but not too much. I love my Burnside jack, and it kind of has the same grind on it. You see I've reprofiled that edge. But if I had to tell you which one cut better, this, or this, it's definitely this full flat grind here. And that's one of the reasons I'm really drawn to slip joint style knives, is because they cut so well. Thin blades, full flat grinds, they just do really well. So here's some size comparisons for you. This is a model number 15. I do have a review coming on this, if I haven't posted it already. That is a model number 15. You can see some size comparisons there. Here's a Burnside jack. Kind of a bad comparison. I guess they're not making any more of these or something, because I think these have shot up in value. So kind of a bad example of a size comparison there. Here is a Talon. That's not a Talon, that is a Viper. I'm sorry. And there's the bullnose. And here's a Sodbuster Junior. It's a good size. I really like it. If you're interested in Benchmade knives, maybe you have a Benchmade small griptilian. There you go. About the same size. So you can see that this knife easily could be your main carry. If you're looking for a slip joint style knife. Here is the Chris Reeve Insingo. So there you go. I like it. So what are the negatives on this knife? I feel this spring is buttery soft and not in a good way. This spring should be a lot more firm for what it is. I think if they wanted to modernize the traditional knife, that's great. They did it. They have removable hardware here. You can take this knife apart. They used S30V for the steel. Wonderful. They did lightning milling on the inside there, if we can see it. Maybe we can't see it. Yeah, there. Maybe you can see it. The lightning holes in there on the liner. That's a stainless liner to a stainless backspacer spring. Backspacer spring, right? And they did a wonderful job on the fit and finish. They did. Everything's nicely contoured. And really no hot spots. I would like to see that rounded off. But I would really like to see this knife have a much firmer pull. Usually I will rate traditional knives on like a 1 to 10 pull scale. So 10 being you need pliers to open it up. It feels like it's just rusted shut. And maybe like 9.5 being you can open it, but you're going to break off your nails. And then like 1 would be no pressure at all. You could just fling it out like when you pull an axis lock back like that. So my working knives like this, I would consider this to be in the same style as this bullnose. A working knife, right? You got the micarta. You've got a larger style, full-size slip joint knife. Should fit the whole hand. A workhorse of an EDC slip joint. And yet this, GC is known for this, as they're like bear trap springs. Yet you can still open it. Now in the past when GC first come out, around 06 or so, they were terrible. They took, most people, not everybody, likes these firm springs for walk and talk. It does inspire more confidence when you're using it. I understand it's a slip joint knife. But man, back when they first come out, that was a big complaint. People were like, oh, we like strong back springs for walk and talk and safety purposes, but not quite like that. So they eased off. So I would say this right now is a strong 8. It wants to snap shut, meaning it also wants to stay open. Of course, it's not a lock, but you can push this. And look how white. I'm really indenting my thumb right here to push it down. Now watch this one. It just stays. It stays. That should be snapping back into place. Right there, it stayed. Look how far this can come down and still want to spring back. Well, right there, it doesn't want to. So anyways, you can see the difference there. GC is known for their walk and talk. GC has made a ton of traditional style slip joints. They know exactly what they're doing. There's a reason that everybody in the traditional knife world is so drawn to them. If Benchmade wants to step up their game and really get into this and do a really good job, they need a stronger back spring. That's just what they need. They need the walk and talk that a slip joint is supposed to have. And if they want it to be a user knife, quote unquote user knife, right? You don't want this soft. I mean, that's not even snapping shut. And when it does, it's like a... Listen to this. This wants to rip out of my hand. I have to struggle to keep this thing open. And that's snapping shut. That's what you want. At least that's what I want. We'll see how this... Same thing. They call that like a bear trap. You really got to be doing something dumb with these knives to get them to close. So I think they could have nailed that better. I understand that this is subjective too. This nail nick here. This looks kind of goofy to me. It just looks like a Fuller or something. Maybe that was by design, but I feel it's tacky looking. It looks like they don't quite know what they're doing. Maybe I'm being too much of a purist. You know, I like this crescent style nail nick here. See it right there? This is in the case sod buster. Here it is in the 15. Or if you want to do something like this would have looked really nice with a long nail nick too. Something like this Northwoods. So overall, I feel it's a really good knife. I feel like there are some things they could have done different. Personally, for me, the walk and talk kills it for me on this knife. I found it very easy to carry. I found it very easy to use. And even with the soft walk and talk and the soft spring, right? I still overall do like the knife. I think it's incredibly well designed. I like how everything flows together. I love this blade shape. I like that they use the S30V in there. Personally, I would have really liked to see something with M4 because I like that patina. I feel traditional knives, you know, all my traditional knives take on a patina here. Well, except for I have that Fremont Jack. That's nice and shiny. I can't even see what I'm doing here. Anyways, it's a good modern interpretation. I feel like they should try one more time. Or maybe even change the design here and just leave a little more steel on this spring. Overall, the fit and finish is nice. Blade's nice and centered. I like how they contoured everything. There's no gaps or anything on the back spacer. There's kind of like one consistent one all the way up and down. I wouldn't even say that's a gap. It's just where two parts fit together. You really, I mean, I have scratched the heck out of this knife now, but you're really not going to get that with GEC. It almost looks like one part. Even on their cheaper Farm and Field, let's see how that looks. Look at that. You can see a difference there, right? These look like they were pinned together, hand fitted, and then they were finished off, sanding on the belt or polishing or whatever, and they made sure everything was nice. This feels like they laser cut to a really high degree parts very precisely and then put them together, but they didn't do the final hand fitting and, you know, finishing touches that maybe some of the other traditional knives do. I can't say case. It's hard to do a traditional knife review without putting it up against, you know, something else, and for a lot less money. In case, I already did a thing on this. Keep in mind though, the price point of this knife, very cheap. So what are they asking for these Benchmade proppers? They're right around $115, give or take a little bit. MSRP from Benchmade around $135. I feel it's worth that. But I do think you have better options if you was going to spend $135 on a working knife. Now these are different, of course, and you can't, these are limited now. I don't think you can even get these. You can get this pattern, but you can't get the canvas micarta, and of course there's going to be a thickness difference here and all that. They're different knives. I like what they did with this. I like that they have a lanyard hole on it. That was one of my gripes about this. is the Madison Barlow. No lanyard hole. I like the lanyard hole. Clay, who sent this to me, shout out to Clay, by the way. I don't know who's still sticking around 20 minutes, but he sent me this knife, if I didn't say so already. Somehow he found a clip. I don't know where he got this that was molded out of micarta. And this is what he had on the back here. And then he could carry this knife clipped to his pocket, and then that was kind of the lanyard. I carried this knife. Maybe he'll put in the comments or something where he got this. Neat idea. I feel we could find a better attachment method, but maybe it's what he had. I don't know. So I carried it in this, and I've been carrying it in this. This is the Northwoods slip. And you know what? Before I shot this video, I hopped on to see if they even make this anymore. And I didn't even see it offered, so I don't know if they have stopped making it. It's a nice little sheath, though. You got your Fisher space pen in there, or it does fit your Investigator, right? And then when you want your knife, you just kind of squeeze it like the coin purses and dump it out. It's a little slower. Slip joints are not for everybody. I understand that. Some jobs require more of a gentleman's carry. That's where I was pretty drawn to this. But when I seen that it had the saber grind on it, and then I start hearing about the soft walk and talk, I just kind of took a pass on it. So I'm glad Clay sent this to me. I'm glad I got to show you guys. I'm glad I got to carry it and use it. Would I recommend it? If you like everything that you see enough to overlook the soft walk and talk on it, I would say jump on it. Even at the $115, you're still getting the S30V. You're getting a great knife that you can carry and use for the rest of your life if you wanted to. But you're going to have to be a little more cautious on, when you actually go to use it, because that spring. Now, there's no way to tighten up that spring unless you have a new back spring built for it. You can't just tighten this up. Yes, you could tighten this pivot up and it would make it harder to close, but then it would be tighter all the way around. So it would be tight closing. You'd have to really push it closed, and you'd have to open it, and slip joints are not supposed to operate that way. If I didn't say this does have a half stop, it's a very soft, not crisp from here to the half stop. It just lazily jumps into the half spot. I wouldn't even say jumps. It lazily moves to the half stop. This, let's see. I don't want to get cut. This snaps into the half stop position. We can do a whole video on that later. What half stops are good for. You feel that difference in there. Benchmade, get with it. I would give this knife a 9 out of 10 if it had a strong back spracer. How it is now, 7 out of 10. I know. It's kind of like, if you really want it, get it. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. The heat treat on the blade steel is nice. To see a slip joint with S30V is nice. The profile is nice. The blade shape is perfect. I would like to find a knife like this. I would like this exact knife with a stronger spring on it, and then around this little corner off here. Just keep in mind what it is. It's a gentleman's knife. Lightweight, 2.3 ounces. And I'm going to get out of here. That is the Benchmade proper. I don't know how I rambled on and on for 25 minutes almost about a slip joint knife. If you're still with me, man, I appreciate it. I do have a lot more videos coming. I just get so excited whenever I do make a video that they just go on and on. I feel if I was more frequent with the videos, then they wouldn't be as long. But you're still not going to make everybody happy. But anyways, it is what it is. I don't apologize for it. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Have a good day. See ya.